because lots of people sort of saw her as a sort of sweet old grandma, and I think Prince Harry and Meghan were very keen to put this idea that, yeah, she was the sweet grandma that would approve anything we did. Harry would always talk about the sort of men in grey suits who would keep me from her and this sort of thing. Well, actually, it turns out, she really was an iron fist beneath that velvet glove. And, this was her being angry about something. This is what Robert reports. And this is over the choice of name. And it wasn't just over the choice of name, which I think she may have felt was presumptuous and was, perhaps an attempt to sort of take advantage, really, to sort of make commercial advantage. Remember, they'd already registered the name Lilibet as a domain name for a website. But also, it was it was something which just, I think, angered her on many different levels.
I'm going to ask the question for balance because I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, X, saying things like, in any other walk of life, it's a great compliment. In any other walk of life, you don't need to ask anyone's permission to name your child whatever name you want. Why has this caused such a problem?
And it's a fair question, but I think if they stuck to the name Elizabeth, then it wouldn't have been, because so many of the Queen's female grandchildren, great-grandchildren have Elizabeth as a middle name in her honour.
Okay.
But Lilibet was a really personal, affectionate nickname given to her by her parents. It was used by her grandfather, her husband, and really her closest friends and relatives. So to have something so personal adopted by somebody else, it just feels a little uncomfortable, and I know she was uncomfortable about it.
Then came Sarah Ferguson's diagnosis of another bout of cancer, this time affecting her skin. Here Rebecca English explains more. Richard Eden reacts to the news, while Richard Kay addresses the persistent rumours that Fergie may remarry her Royal Lodge roommate, Prince Andrew.
So she announced at the weekend that she'd been diagnosed with malignant melanoma, which actually is a very serious form of skin cancer, I know, because I've had it in my own family. And it was caught because she was going in for further reconstructive surgery after her breast cancer and her mastectomy. And the dermatologist was really on the button and said, there's some things that I'm not quite happy about, can we get them checked out? And I was told by a friend of hers she found out over the new year that it was cancer, but she's going to have to go some other investigations to make sure they have got everything out. But I know the doctors are very hopeful they have. So, and she's determined to get back on television screens again, to again use this another personal health crisis as a means to encourage other people to get themselves checked out and hopefully save lives as well.
Yeah, I mean, melanoma is one of those sort of silently scary, really malicious diseases. I hope she's doing well. But Richard, as Rebecca alludes to, it's going to slow down hopes for that media career to take off. But it's also been widely reported that Sarah's been keeping an eye on Prince Andrew, who's had his share of problems.
Well, obviously Prince Andrew's been going through a difficult time recently. He doesn't have a job anymore, and we've had all the revelations from those court documents in America, so she's been supporting him. At the same time, remember, she's only recently recovered from her cancer treatment, and she's started working very hard. She's become the sort of breadwinner of the family, so to speak, and she's been doing all sorts of TV appearances, and she's working with her books and that sort of thing. So it has come at a terrible time for her. But you know what she's like. I think she's already been to a clinic in Austria to convalesce, and I'm sure she'll be kind of back at it before too long. She's one of those people, you just sort of nothing will keep her down.
She's definitely got a just get on with it spirit.
She really has.
Speaking of that, Richard Kay, this leads me very nicely to a piece you wrote this week for the Mail's new subscription platform, Mail Plus, that intrigued me greatly. You have a novel solution.
Well, it's not an original solution. The idea is that maybe one way out of the Duke and Duchess's current predicament would be for them to remarry, because that would at least give Andrew, I think, some sort of public validation that at least there's someone who is very much standing by him.
Sorry.
It might also deal with the issue over housing. Is he really going to be able to stay on in Royal Lodge if he and Fergie were to become a married couple once again, that might deter some of the enemies within the court who would like to evict him from that property. I mean, as I say, it's not original. We've been down this road many times before, but the fact is they have been together for the best part of 40 years. I think we're coming up next year to the 40th anniversary of when they first met, although they knew each other as children. And despite divorce, despite all the difficulties and the embarrassments that Fergie heaped on the royal family, and indeed Andrew, they have remained together.
Now, would it be, though, a marriage of rekindled love or a marriage of convenience?
That's a very good point. I suspect more of the latter. I mean, I think there is a great deal of affection between the two of them still. Neither of them have found anyone else they want to make their life partner. I think there are various issues, of course, raised there. One thing which I didn't touch on, but which has occurred to me, is if she were to marry and remarry Andrew, would she get her HRH back? I suspect not.
Wow.
But it was taken away from her when she divorced him.
What are your memories as a young reporter? Because you were at their wedding.
Well, yeah. I wasn't that young, but I was covering the.
Are you
I
a
did
vampire,
cover the
Richard?
Yeah. See my picture in the attic. Yes, I remember it being an incredibly hot but very joyful day. I mean, London really was en fête, just as it had been 5 years earlier with Charles and Diana's wedding, but there was something intrinsically different this time, because here was a couple who were manifestly very much in love, and it was one of the reasons why no one has really grasped why they ever split up. But they were in love, clearly. They couldn't keep their hands off one another when they were out together in public, and they seemed a team, a proper team. And by then, tragically, Charles...
It's been a wretched year for Catherine, the Princess of Wales. There was Kate's conspiracy, the botched Mother's Day photograph, months of vicious and unfounded rumours about her marriage, and most seriously of all, of course, she was diagnosed with cancer. But this week, to everyone's great relief, she announced that she's now through chemotherapy and is currently cancer-free.
To an end. I cannot tell you what a relief it is to have finally completed my chemotherapy treatment. The last 9 months have been incredibly tough for us as a family. Life as you know it can change in an instant. This time has above all reminded William and me to reflect and be grateful for the simple yet important things in life, which so many of us often take for granted, of simply loving and being loved.
Of course, these days we're not allowed to have nice things. Social media critics and some commentators called it contrived, a cringe fest, and perhaps the most damning critique of all, like something Harry and Meghan would do. As you might imagine, I disagree. In a late entry for the most tasteless and despicable deed of the summer, Harry and Meghan released an advertisement for their new documentary about polo, the world's most elite sport, just 90 minutes after Kate's announcement. Well, joining me now to discuss all this is royal historian Tessa Dunlop, lawyer and commentator Paula Rowan-Adrian, and author of Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, Tom Bow. Well, welcome to all of you. First of all, I've seen you all since the end of the long, hot summer. Tom, let me start with you, because it was an extraordinary way to make a statement. I've never seen anything quite like it from a member of the royal family, where we had this 3-minute, highly produced, movie-quality film. But at the heart of it, as I wrote in The Sun, was a princess laying herself open and saying, I've realised what is really important in life is loving and being loved. And the film certainly showed that with her husband and her kids. But what did you make of it?
Well, it was very gushing and it was beautifully made and it was unique in the sense we've never seen anything like that before for the British royal family. But I think the public mood towards Catherine is so beneficent. Everyone loves her and wants her to survive and prosper and be the future queen, that if that is the way she wants to reintroduce herself, everything is forgiven. And I thought there was nothing nasty about it. There was nothing over the top. It was just, this is how I want to be known. And that's fine. I thought, therefore, I liked it. And everything Catherine does, in my view, is okay.
I found it very moving, but only because I think she's a young woman in her early 40s who's, we don't know what cancer it is, but it must have been serious, whatever this is, because it's taken her out of action now for most of the year. She hasn't given any commitment to do any more engagements this year. She may or may not, she says. And And, you know, I know somebody at the moment with terminal cancer, and we all know people who've been touched by cancer. It is an appalling thing when it's someone you know going through this, both physically but also mentally and emotionally for everyone. Tessa, though, if you read what Daily Mail columnist Liz Jones said, she said about the video, cancer is messy, imperfect, shattering. After all the mental health initiatives, her work stressing the importance of shaping young minds, this strange, odd film seemed a misfire from a family once so protective of their privacy. And Melanie McDonough in The Standard wrote, "Forgive me, was it necessary to share this news with the nation in such an utterly grisly video? It's as if she was advertising herbal essences, shampoo." What do you think of that criticism?
Well, it's interesting. It depends where you believe the key role of monarchy is. And given that they are the future, the touchstone, if you like, and all eyes are on her internationally as well, I thought it was the most extraordinary advert for Englishness. It was a golden summer that I didn't experience. I mean, you went overseas.
Well, I did. I was in Italy and France.
Those of us hunkered down in Britain. So on the one hand, it was a brilliant advert for the nation. So well done, Kate. I'm sure the English Tourist Board are currently raking it in. But there is a disconnect. And I think the reason there's a disconnect is because this is a very different version of monarchy that places family in the smallest sense of the word first and monarchy, the institution, second. What Kate's basically saying is, this is what I value the most, and it's my family, and everything else, including being a part of an institution of state, takes very much a back seat. And I did wonder how the late Queen would have responded to the public display of affection.
Well, OK, so Paul, let's talk about that, because the Queen, apart from the fact, we'll come to it, there's been the world's worst statue of the Queen released today in Antrim in Belfast, just quite extraordinary thing, in Northern Ireland. Let's park that horror story to one side. People have said, well, the Queen would never have done it. Interestingly, towards the end of her life, the Queen started doing some stuff, the Paddington Bear film, the Daniel Craig thing, things we would never have expected her to ever deign to do. She was beginning to relax herself in terms of the kind of content she was prepared to put out, recognising that in this kind of Instagram-friendly world we now live in, if you want to get to the eyeballs you want to get to preserve the monarchy, you maybe got to get in this game a bit.
Yes, but if the point of this video was to control the narrative, which is what we hear a lot about, don't we? I have to say I'm confused, because when I watched the video, I was befuddled. I couldn't understand the words I was hearing with then what I was seeing. What I was seeing was, as you said yourself, Piers, something that was very well produced, very slick, very polished. And it was almost like a show, because on the one hand, we had George going up to the camera in his cute, cheeky way and saying, is this rolling? Well, we know it's rolling, and we know that you've got 6 cameramen standing behind you, etc. And on top of that, I, honest to God, when I finished watching it, I wanted to know who the producer was, because I assumed that this was an Archwell production, because this looked like a Harry and Meghan.
It was that bad, you mean?
Well, I'm not suggesting that that's why you might think it was bad. I'm saying that it was very glossy, very California, very let's run barefoot in the sand. And that, to me, didn't represent what the message I understood wanted to be
someone posted
across.
on X, as Liz Jones reported, this isn't what cancer looks like. Other sufferers will feel, well, I'm doing it all wrong. Others commented, why are the wardrobe changes, the soft music, the slow motion? Yeah. It was intended to show they're a happy family, but you have to try this hard, ...
Hang on, for 1 minute. Let's just cut the woman some slack. We were like braying animals at the bars when she released a homespun photograph with a little bit of tweaking here and there.
Yeah.
So can you blame her for going all out schmaltz and taking a leaf out of the Oh So Californian book? To be fair, I totally understand why this was choreographed to within 1 inch of its life. It's what we asked for.
But then compare it with the video that we had at the end of March, forgive me if I'm incorrect about that date, when Kate had to, sadly, she was forced, she was pushed into telling us that very personal detail about her cancer journey.
Again, that was soft focus, daffodils waving.
But it was her. In this video, Piers, I didn't see Catherine. What I saw was something that felt like an actress using the words of Catherine. And that I thought was very interesting because, as I said, I wondered whether this was about having some kind of polished, controlling the narrative exercise rather than Catherine being able to say, everyone, I've made it through this very difficult hurdle and I'm on to the next stage. I would also question some of the wording that was used. For example, I'm here holding your hand, other cancer sufferers. I would have thought we would have seen that. I would have thought we would have seen Catherine.
You mean literally see her with other cancer
Absolutely.
patients? Yeah, but you see, I would take issue with that because when I read that last line, I thought what I liked about it, and we'll come to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex element of this, but everything they do, in my opinion, and we can argue about this, is self-aggrandizing. It's to promote themselves. It's to do, whatever they want to do. This
all
was
the charity work. This was work with Invictus.
This was a princess laying herself bare and saying, "I understand that there are a lot of people out there with cancer, and I just want you to know that I'm metaphorically here with you. That's why I'm doing this. I want to shine a light on cancer and everything else." I thought that was powerful. Isn't that actually the duty and role of the monarchy? Is that the senior players do, even though we know they live in palaces, we know they have servants, we know they have all the trinkets, ultimately they put a kind of